Hello everybody, how are you doing? It's good to be back. First order of business, please make sure that you have hit the like button, that you've interacted with the video in some way. Again, I hate doing this ritual, but something algorithm, okay? YouTube doesn't like independent journalism. They try to keep us in a hole. So when you comment or you like or you do something, it helps boost the video. So, roll call. Where are you guys? It's been a long time. I see Colin is in the chat. How are you doing, Habibi? It's good to see you. I see also Crypta Maria. I don't know if I'm saying your name correctly. He's very excited for the stream. Good to see you too. It's weird because I see we have 120 likes, but there's less than 100 people watching. I don't know, maybe YouTube is playing with the numbers, but it's okay. We'll get into it. If you're watching this on replay, please roll call as well. And if you want to skip all the intro nonsense, you can fast forward. People were asking me where I was for a while. I got wisdom teeth taken out. I couldn't speak. So that's where I was. Don't worry, the CIA didn't get me yet. I shouldn't have said that probably, but man, where to begin? Where to begin? There is so much. There is so much. Christ. I was actually just interviewing a guy named Jeffrey Sterling. He used to work in the CIA, and his case is very interesting because he was also, the Espionage Act, the thing they used against Chelsea Manning, against Assange, against Snowden. They used it against him as well, right? So he was also facing like 100 years. They were threatening him with 100 years. Where did they get these figures in the United States, right? And they, in the end, they knocked it down to about 42 months. So 3.5 years. He spent 2 years, I think, or 2.5. And same law, same Espionage Act, same court, Eastern District, Virginia, as Assange, all of them. This is the Espionage Court, right? And he told me something which is incredible. Basically, before they tried him with this, a few years back, he got fired from the CIA, right? And they were, he tried to sue them in court because of racism, right? So he's black, and then they were basically telling him like he stands out too much because he's a tall black guy who speaks Farsi, and that's not good enough for the CIA apparently. They started giving him less jobs and shit. And when he took it to court, you know what they told him? Listen to this. They said that they didn't he didn't lose the case. They dismissed it because they said that proving the racism would compromise national security. As a colored man, as a black man in America, they're really creative. They're really fucking creative with these excuses that they come up with to keep the racist bullshit going. Well done. Really. I mean, I'm speechless. I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say. And that's just one part of the story. So I'll have that up for you soon enough. Colin says, you owe me an interview, Habibi. Hey, you got me there. I couldn't speak because of the wisdom teeth unless you wanted me to come on looking like a chipmunk. Then, of course, that wouldn't have been too good. But yes, we have to do something together, absolutely. And thank you for the super chat. Of course, it's not about that. I'm just happy to hear from you. And yeah, this is great. We have more likes than viewers. I don't know what's up with that, but I'm not going to complain. So anyway, let's get right down to the nitty gritty. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. The nitty gritty, oh boy. Christ. So, Joe Biden, right? He got elected on the most progressive platform in American history, as they say, which is, some of the biggest nonsense I've ever heard in my life. And one of the things he said is that he was going to help out people who have student loan debt. Now, for those of you who don't know, although I'd be surprised, in the United States, college is not free, okay? And it's not just not free. It costs a fortune, literally a fortune. The average amount of debt, of college debt per household, I think it's in the 100, hold on, I wrote the figures down here a second. So it was around $145,000, and if we're talking about individual average debt, it's $92,000. I mean, it's astronomical, right? At this point, you're just splitting hairs. And of course, in total, you know, the U.S. has a student debt crisis. There's about $1.6, $1.7 trillion that are owed in student debt, which is, of course, an abomination, because no civilized country makes people pay through the nose to get higher education. I mean, this is stupid. This is, you know, college is an investment in your own country. You're investing in a future workforce and your economy, and you know. Anyway, we've talked about this a million times, but nevertheless, this is the reality in America, the greatest country on earth, allegedly. So Joe Biden, this is during the campaign trail. I want to show you this video. This is from October 29th, 2019. And he's campaigning, and look what he says in this tweet. I mean, he says over here, paying off your kid's student loan debt can feel overwhelming. We need a president who understands that. And then he has an exchange with a mother here whose daughter is in, you know, has a huge amount of debt. Take a listen.
I'm 62 today.
I don't believe you. I want to see a license.
I don't have it with me. But I have a great birthday wish. That's awesome.
Happy birthday.
And a birthday wish to me would be if you can somehow, once you're elected, to do something about student debt. My daughter's finishing up a dental program. By the time she graduates, she will be over $900,000 in debt.
My 3 children graduated.
I'm just going to mute it because of the copyright issue, but did you say what Biden's saying? I'm just going to keep it going. You can read the subtitles. I love how his response is, well, you know, my children also partake in this screwed up system. Isn't that nice? What does that even mean? And so, I mean, how depraved? $900,000 in debt. You know, in the UK, if I don't know if they've changed this. They changed, for example, in 2011, you used to pay $3,000 a year, and then they tripled it. So you would pay $3,000 per trimester, right? So basically, 3 years of college in the UK, it went from being $9,000, right? $9,000 for a 3-year program. If you're doing a bachelor's degree, for example, it's 3 years. You pay $9,000 for that. And then, so the UK except Scotland. Scotland kept it that way, I think. But in the UK, they tripled it, right? So it went to $27,000. And my point here is that in the UK, if you go to study as a doctor, certainly as a doctor, I don't know if it's for nurses as well, but certainly as a doctor, you don't pay any tuition because it's understood that you are valuable. You know, I mean, I don't think it's just doctors, but definitely doctors. And the idea is that, you know, you don't pay any student loans or anything because you're a doctor and you will go work for the NHS. That's the deal. You go work for the National Health Service. And he's like, well, you know, I'm proposing. It's not even like a certain thing. I'm proposing that some doctors who work in some undeserved, affected communities, poor communities, will get their debts forgiven. That's, of course, not happened, right? It's just a bunch of BS. Here's what Biden is doing. Now, I want to show you what he is doing. And one more thing. I'm just going to throw you another video. Here's another video of Biden. Okay, this is when he was president-elect. Take a listen to this.
I didn't hear you talk specifically about is canceling student loan debt. Does student loan forgiveness figure in your plan? Would you take executive action to achieve it?
It does figure in my plan. I've laid out in detail. For example, the legislation passed by the Democratic House calls for immediate $10,000 forgiveness of student loans. It's holding people up. They're in real trouble. They're having to make choices between paying their student loan and paying their rent, those kinds of decisions. It should be done immediately. In addition to that, as you know, I think that everything from community college straight through to doubling Pell Grants to making sure that we have access, free education for anyone making under $125,000 for 4 years of college. And there is a program that exists now under the law that forgives student loans for being able to engaging in public service. I'm going to institute that fundamental change in that so it's able to be available to everyone that, in fact, is engaged. It's not being very well managed right now. So I'm going to do all of those things. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President-elect. You just spoke of some of the dangers of...
Really? You're going to do all of those things? Where is it? Here's another thing. This is Biden with Colbert. Also, during the campaign, it's definitely before he was inaugurated.
There is talk of debt relief. There's bailing out of businesses, which is a good thing to do. What about the students? Isn't now a time to forgive student debt and then restructure how we pay for college so we're not here again in 10 years?
The answer is yes. That's why I proposed and the House, Nancy, put it in the plan to immediately provide $10,000 in debt relief as stimulus right now for students. A minimum of $10,000.
Where is it?
Also proposed that you, in fact, have, if you come from a family where you are making less than $125,000 a year, the family, that you, in fact, are able to go to a state university for free, and you get debt.
Okay, so I'm just going to cut it short and tell you that Biden has done none of this. Okay, this is what he is doing now. Okay, so there was a moratorium on student debt loan payments. So basically, you know, if you taken out whatever amount it is of student loan debt to pay for your degree, you didn't have to pay back the loans. They were frozen, not canceled, for a while. This is dating back to 2020, and because of the pandemic, and also the interest had gone down to 0%, right? And so what Biden is doing now is, instead of doing this 10,000 loan forgiveness, which is already peanuts, he's not doing that. There's no student debt forgiveness. This is what he's doing. Take a look. Christ. Biden, this is from Forbes magazine. Biden won't extend student loan relief and confirms student loan payments restart February 1st. Isn't that nice? Isn't that beautiful? Here's Jen Psaki, the White House spokesperson.
The Biden administration considering extending that student loan payment pause? I know there's, if not, besides legislation that probably won't pass, what are some of the options that can help these people?
You're talking about the student loan payment pass that expires in February, just for clarity. So in the coming weeks, we will release more details about our plans, and we'll engage directly with federal student loan borrowers to ensure they have the resources they need and are in the appropriate repayment plan. We're still assessing the impact of the Omicron variant, but a smooth transition back into repayment is a high priority for the administration. The Department of Education is already communicating with borrowers to help them to prepare for return to repayment on February 1st, and has secured contract extensions with loan servicers. So we are preparing for a range of steps here. These steps have provided, I would just note, more than $12.5 billion in discharges to nearly 640,000 borrowers.
Okay, I'm just going to cut it short. She's just saying a bunch of, verbal diarrhea to say no. The question was, will the Biden administration be extending the moratorium? The answer is no. Absolutely not. So this is what they're doing, right? They are screwing people because they wanted to get a higher education for the crime of getting a higher education. So where's the difference here between a Bush administration, a Trump administration, a Biden administration, an Obama administration? Nothing. There's absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. However, they did have money for the military, right? So this is dated 2 days ago, December 15th. New York Times reports the Senate passed a $768 billion defense bill on Wednesday, sending legislation to President Biden that will increase the Pentagon's budget by roughly $24 billion more than he requested. And what Biden requested was already the largest in modern history, right? So he's asking for a bigger military budget, an offense budget. It's not a defense budget. He's asking for a bigger military budget than Trump, than Orange Cheeto Man, the fascism man. Remember? Fascism bad. Trump has to go. In comes Biden. What does he do? More money for the military-industrial complex. But I'm sorry, we can't cancel $10,000 of your student debt. You can go fuck yourself, because Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Northrop, BAE Systems, BAE is British, to be fair, but they have partnerships. We need Rolls-Royce engines to power these bombers. We need payloads for all these planes. I don't care about your degree. That's the attitude. And again, where's the difference? I mean, I really, if you remove the dates and I showed you these headlines, could you tell what year this is from? I have no clue. It could be yesterday. It could be 10 years ago. Who knows? Who knows? And do you remember the other thing, the $2,000 payment? And then Newsweek tried to attack me and Ryan because of this. It's so stupid, so petty. They're basically saying that we're lying. Are you out of your goddamn mind? Joe Biden lied. Joe Biden said $2,000 stimulus checks. He screwed you and gave you $1,400 because he's such a cheapskate, right? Like in the bad sense of the term. He's supposed to work for you, and then he cheats you out of $600. Well, God, do you think Wall Street would tolerate that? Wall Street wouldn't tolerate 1 cent being cheated out of. Okay, and here they have the biggest military budget in modern history. I mean, Christ, what am I supposed to say? Like, what do you look at this and what do you think? Honestly, so. You know, the idea that there's no money to pay for college, bullshit. Go to hell. The student debt crisis is $1.6 trillion. First of all, just ethically, morally, logically, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You need an educated workforce. You need to, provide people. It's not even just about, let's educate all these people and then profit off of their workforce. It's not even about that. It's just morally wrong. It's education. It should be free. In a civilized society. Why is kindergarten, high school, all of this stuff free but not college? It will be one day, and then people will look back at how barbaric this whole thing was, right? It's the modern equivalent of how you had like public schools. Public means private in the UK, and only the aristocrats, the noble people, the rich people, the royals could afford to send their kids there. And to this day, actually, the public schools in England, I mean, they're so expensive. You just can't go there unless you're from, you can't go to Eton without shitting money. But people will look at this one day, and I mean, people are looking at it right now and saying this is barbaric. But you get what I mean. It's just the wrong thing to do. And the money is there. And if the student debt crisis is $1.7 trillion, first of all, by canceling all this, you will stimulate the economy. When I say right-wingers in America, what does that even mean? The Democrats are also right-wing. They're just right-wing light. But in American terms, the right in the U.S., they say, well, you can't forgive these debts because it's not okay and blah, blah, blah. And they care so much about the economy, right? They care so much about the economy. It's all about growth, and they want to be the biggest and the best. Okay, but if you lifted this debt off of all these students who owe hundreds of thousands of dollars and who aren't crushed by this debt anymore, that stimulates the economy, which you care so much about, right? The economy, the market. It's like all they see is dollar signs. That would immediately stimulate the economy because people would have money to spend on shit that they actually need. Able to start a family. There was an increasing number of I don't know what the exact age, the range is now of it, but basically people in their mid-20s, mid-30s who can't start families, young adults who cannot start families because they're crushed by debt, student debt. They didn't gamble it away. They didn't go get a Ferrari. They're just trying to get a degree because they've been told they need a degree to enter the workforce in the first place. They didn't want to do it. They've been forced to do it, dictated to. So in other civilized countries, in all countries, virtually all countries around the world, education is free, college is free. So there's no reason to do this, especially if you want to say America is the biggest, America is the richest, America is the greatest, America is the freest. Well, you're not free to go to college, apparently, because you'll be crushed by debt your whole fucking life. What did that woman say? Her daughter was $900,000 in debt because she was trying to become a dentist. How do you pay that off, even on a dentist or doctor's salary? You take your whole life to pay that off. This is Joe Biden, once again, being a neoliberal piece of shit, which is what he is. I'm not showing you these clips of Joe Biden in 2019 because I believe these things. None of us believe these things. I told you back then, it's a bunch of bullshit. And even if you were to do these things that he said, 10K student relief, what is 10K? People owe, on median, as we saw on average, they owe $90,000 in student debt. What is 10K? Average household is $145,000. What is 10K going to do, especially with these interest rates? So in America, once again, you have an entire industry which revolves around fucking people, right? Whether it's the big pharma, it's the healthcare, or it's the prisons, right? They say, oh, you have to be held accountable. You have to go to prison. You have to do your time. You have to, serve your debts to society. It's not about any of that. It's about making money for corporations. They make money. Every jail cell they fill, every boots they fill in the military, it's always somebody making money. And in the prison, they use people as slaves, right? It's been called, essentially modern slavery. They have workers who go on strike, and then instead of negotiating a pay rise with the workers, whatever it is, for example, we saw last year I covered people who were basically working as trashmen. Instead of paying the trashmen a proper salary, what did this company do? They went and got people from a jail and paid them even less. And you can't blame the guys in the jail. They just want to get outside. It's a natural human, they don't care if it's 10 cents or 2 cents, but that doesn't make it right. So they prey off of them. They're predators. So there's someone making money. And this student, the student loan crisis, the student debt crisis is just like the healthcare crisis. It's just like the prison industry. Instead of doing things that benefit society, they're doing things that benefit a bunch of billionaires. And, it's just disgusting. And then they want to lecture the world about being civilized. What on earth are you talking about? You have so much money. How can you look at this astronomical figure? I mean, if you cut that just by half, I'm not even saying like 90%, just half, you could deal with the student loan crisis in what is it, 5 years? Someone do the math. You don't have to spend this money, because even with this amount, even before Biden requested this revolting, bloated, obscene, incorrigible military budget, and then of course the senators, were all bought. They work for the weapons industry, so of course they want their buddies, their friends, to get thicker, bigger contracts. So they add to it. Of course, they don't work for you. Are you stupid? You're not stupid. You know this. You know that the senators work for the weapons industry. They work for the corporations. So they add to it. But even before that, even before they added to it, America has the biggest military budget, right? It has a bigger military budget than the next 10 countries combined. That means Russia, China, the UK, etc. And so even before, if you cut it in half, you'd still be number one. You don't need this shit. You don't need this. And my point here is that they can't come and tell you that, oh, we can't pardon the student loan debts. We can't forgive people for going to college because it's bad for the economy or the money isn't there. That's complete horse manure. And, I'm absolutely revolted seeing things like this, for example. I have no clue who any of these people are. But, for example, they're making fun of someone here in the pictures who says, let me read this tweet to you. It got very popular on Twitter. Says, Biden, I just got an email about my student loans. They're telling me the payment pause on student loans ends at the end of January. I'm going to have them email and call you because something must be wrong. I swear you told us you was canceling student loan debt. And then the next tweet is from the same person saying, we're getting ready to land in Hawaii. I'm so excited for this vacation. I apologize in advance for all the pictures I would post. Yeah, whatever. Basically, they're saying like, oh, how can you say you don't want to pay your student loans if you're going on holiday? Which is like, what a disgusting mentality. Like, oh, you have debt? You must cease immediately to partake in any joyful activities. How dare you, right? Like, just go be a slave. Just go work forever and pay debts to fucking corporations and never enjoy a moment of your life. How dare you? Get back in line, citizen. Wait, what kind of bullshit, sick logic is that? Who thinks like this? Who's so, how miserable are you that you see someone else having fun, you have to like shit on them like that? It doesn't change anything. You could be a millionaire. You could have $10 million and you still shouldn't be paying $900,000, whatever it is, in student loan debts because it's just the wrong thing to do. I don't care how rich or how poor you are. This is an argument that only benefits corporations, doesn't benefit society, doesn't benefit the economy, nothing. And so Biden is just being Biden again. He's just helping his neoliberal friends. He's just helping the same people that he's been elected to help. Biden has been 40 years in the Senate in various roles. Let's say close to 50 years in government now in various positions. Vice president, a senator, now he's president. And so in these various roles, all he's done is help corporations, banks, credit cards. Biden's been a big friend of credit cards. You know, he also used to represent Delaware, right? And for those of you who don't know, Delaware is the tax haven of the United States. That's where all the corporations go to register in Delaware so they don't have to pay higher taxes. And I mean, you know, Biden represented that state. What do I need to tell you? So he's been a big friend of these corporations his whole life, whether it's the banks, it's the credit card companies. And one thing that is so important to highlight, Joe Biden helped get the bankruptcy bill through Congress into pass it into law. And that bankruptcy bill makes sure that you as a student, if you have student loan debt, you can't file for bankruptcy, right? How incredible is that? So he's done a huge favor years ago already, a much bigger favor than what he's just done now with finishing the moratorium, ending the moratorium. He did a huge favor to all these companies, you know, these student debt giants, these companies that make money off of giving out loans to students, people who are just trying to get an education. He did them a huge favor, because he made sure that if you're a student and you literally go bankrupt, you're penniless, you can't file for bankruptcy if it's because of student loans. Wow. What a progressive. You know, you really got to be brainless to vote for Biden. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. And again, that doesn't mean it doesn't mean anything. Trump, Biden, Obama, Bush, same shit. This is a system that's been broken for decades, and they don't want to fix it. No one's going to fix it. And you have the right. Again, I'm speaking in U.S. terms because both Democrats and Republicans are right wing. But in U.S. terms, the right, meaning conservatives or Republicans, generally speaking, especially the ones who are in Congress, you know, they are against this. And the Democrats are also against this, are also against free college, but they just put on a smile. Well, the moratorium is ending at the end of January, Omicron, something. What the fuck does that have to do with what the question, what are you talking about? Where's the 10K? They won't even give you pennies. It's just like the stimulus check. They won't even give you these pennies, 10K, which is a drop in the ocean, right, of pardoning student debt. They won't do it. What bastards, honestly. So give me a second. Let's move on to the next topic. I just like reading your comments sometimes in between. We have a super chat here from Paul. Paul says, really enjoyed the last uploads. Thank you for the live stream. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate the support. I'm glad you like the videos. I have a lot more coming for you, so stay tuned for that. By the way, just as a small parentheses, I'll be on Katie Halper's show at the top of the hour, so in about an hour, to talk about Assange and other very important things relating to Assange. So let me show you some things that are happening over here. Okay, take a look at this. Let me switch up over here. Okay. So the United States and its closest allies, the Four Eyes, not the Five Eyes, but the Four Eyes, have said they will be boycotting the Beijing Winter Olympics. Let me just show you very quickly how they announced this, right?
The Biden administration will not send any diplomatic or official representation to the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympics and Paralympic Games, given the PRC's ongoing genocide and crimes against humanity in Xinjiang and other.
Here's Boris Johnson.
The government has no hesitation in raising these issues with China, as I did with President Xi the last time I talked to him, and there will be effectively a diplomatic boycott of the Winter Olympics in Beijing. No ministers are expected to attend.
Here's Canada.
In conversation with partners and allies around the world on the issue of the Beijing Olympic and Paralympic Games. As a country, indeed, as many partners around the world, we are extremely concerned by the repeated human rights violations by the Chinese government.
Here's Australia.
Xinjiang and the many other issues that Australia has on those have not been received well in China, and there's been a disagreement between us on those matters. But of course the human rights abuses in Xinjiang and the many other issues that Australia has consistently raised. So it is not surprising, therefore.
The human rights abuses, right? That's the reason they're giving. So the UK, the US, Australia, Canada, they don't want to send any diplomats. They will be sending athletes, but not diplomats. No official delegation to China because of the human rights abuses, okay? So you can see also here, this is an article from the BBC about this. They say the same thing, right? So basically that the venue for the 2022 Winter Olympics has been hit by a flurry of diplomatic boycotts from countries including the US, Australia, and Britain because of widespread allegations of Chinese atrocities against the Uyghur community. So let me get this straight. The same exact countries who invaded Iraq, who invaded Afghanistan, who have started a war on terror for, what is it? It's been going on for 20 years now, right? Just over 20 years. Have been killing Muslims in God knows how many countries, are suddenly concerned about Muslims in China. Wow. Wow. So now the United States cares about Muslims all of a sudden. Isn't that incredible? Isn't that absolutely incredible? You know, when Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State and she was visiting China, asking them to buy debt, she sure didn't care much about their human rights abuses, right? Now, granted, back then, the more prominent issues that they were raising were Tibet. They were also talking a bit about Taiwan. They weren't talking about Uyghurs as much as they are now. But they didn't seem to mind any of that. I want to play you a clip of Hillary Clinton in 2009. Look at how she speaks.
All are testaments to China's dynamism and growth, and the United States welcomes this. We welcome China's role in promoting peace and stability in the Asian Pacific. Over the past 30 years, the United States has helped.
That's a very different tune from what they're saying now. Just 3 months ago, they formed this military alliance called AUKUS, right? Australia, the UK, and the US, because they're afraid of China destabilizing the Indo-Pacific. That's not what Hillary Clinton just said, right? You heard what she just said.
And growth, and the United States welcomes this. We welcome China's role in promoting peace and stability in the Asian Pacific.
She sounds very different from Blinken.
That's why there's so much concern from Northeast Asia to Southeast Asia and from the Mekong River to the Pacific Islands about Beijing's aggressive actions.
So what's changed? What has changed exactly from 2009 to 2021? Because as I said, some of these issues which they raise today, they say, China and Tibet, China and Hong Kong, China and Taiwan, China and the Uyghurs. These issues that they're raising, they were mentioning them in passing back then, but they didn't consider it a roadblock. They weren't going to boycott China. Hillary Clinton went to China. She was begging them to buy U.S. debt. Right? And now the United States, which does this to Muslims, is pretending to care about Muslims. You know, I interviewed someone who was in Guantanamo Bay for 14 years from Yemen. They kidnapped him when he was 18. Some Afghan warlord kidnapped him, handed him over to the CIA. Of course, he's done nothing in his life. And they whisked him off to Guantanamo Bay and locked him up there for 14 years. Mansour al-Daifi. I asked him a question. I asked him, what do all the inmates in Guantanamo Bay have in common with each other? What's the one common denominator between everyone who's detained there? You're just Muslim.
Yeah, I mean, yes, like all of us were Muslims. Like, as I told you, 50 nationalities, 20 years spoken, all of us were Muslims.
So the only common denominator between all these people who are locked up in Guantanamo Bay, I mean, look like animals. Worse, I mean, you shouldn't treat animals like that anyway, but for the expression's sake, treated like, just look at that. They can't hear anything, they can't see anything, they can't move. And they're all Muslim. That's the only thing they all have in common. They are Muslim. Held without charge, held without trial. And now the United States pretends that it cares about Muslims. You know, there's a Senate report, there's a report from Congress that came out that said the United States has used the AOMF, the Authorization for the Use of Military Force of 2001, which started the invasion of Afghanistan, which started the war on terror. They've used that AOMF to bomb 19 countries. 19 countries, right, under this war on terror. Who are the primary victims of this war? They are civilians and they are Muslims. So the United States has killed, Jesus Christ, I don't know how many. I mean, look at Iraq. Just Iraq, right? They invaded Iraq in 2003. Even the conservative estimates, which, you know, is really, you have to be naive to believe that. But even the conservative estimates, it's about 100,000, 200,000 dead Iraqis. The real figure is it's over 1 million, because you cannot just look at the U.S. invasion as an isolated incident. This is ignorant. This is just completely disconnected from reality. You have to look at the casualties from the U.S. invasion, the sectarian violence, which the United States helped create, which the United States gave rise to, Al-Qaeda, ISIS. This is all a direct result of the invasion. We're talking about 1 million plus Iraqis killed and millions more turned into refugees. Millions. And now the United States, this is just Iraq. I haven't even talked about Afghanistan. I haven't even talked about Libya. I haven't even talked about Syria. I haven't even talked about, how they help Israel attack Iran, which is not an Arab, but a Muslim country. I haven't even talked about any of the other places. Yemen, again, 50 nationalities, all Muslim men. Just in Iraq alone, they've killed 1 million Muslims. Of course, Iraq also has Christians, just like I'm Syrian Christian. But they've killed so many people, the majority of them, Muslims and civilians. And now they're coming along and saying China it's committing heinous acts against Muslims, and we have to take a stand now and draw a line in the sand. Who are you? If there's going to be one country that takes up such a position, I really think the United States is at the bottom of the list. Of such countries. You really have no moral high ground to stand on here and start criticizing China for mistreating Muslims. Are you serious? What a joke. I mean, when it comes out of the mouths of a country, an alliance of countries, the UK, the US, Australia, Canada, the same countries who have sent their forces to land, to invade, to kill, to slaughter, to imprison predominantly Muslim civilians all over the world. This has no value coming out of your mouth. It's disgusting hypocrisy of the highest order. So you know that they don't actually mean it. They mean it because of their history, because of their hypocrites. And the most important thing here also is that they didn't have a problem with any of these so-called human rights abuses 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. You know why? Because China was in line back then. China wasn't getting out of line. China didn't seem like an economic threat. And again, I don't like using this word threat because in their mind, in their capitalist, imperialist mind, it's a threat because it's a competition. But it's not actually a threat. China doesn't have fleets of warships off the coast of Florida. It's the United States that has fleets of warships off the coast of China, right? It's the United States, the UK, the US who just formed a military alliance to come in and threaten and antagonize China in China's backyard. Not the other way around. But nevertheless, back then China, was definitely one of the fastest growing economy in the world, but nowhere near the same kind of so-called threat economically, militarily that it is today. And again, it's not really a threat. It's just it poses a challenge, an ideological challenge, a political challenge to Western imperialism, to Western neoliberalism, and so they view it as a threat. And now, all of a sudden, they care about China's human rights abuses. I mean, what a joke. What a joke. Here's another example of how much the United States cares about Muslims. So much, right? This is an article from the New York Times from just last week. The headline reads, "No U.S. troops will be punished for deadly Kabul strike." The military initially defended the strike, which killed 10 civilians, including 7 children, but ultimately called it a tragic mistake. So you remember when the U.S. drone striked ISIS-K terrorists? For weeks, they kept up this lie. At the end of August, when they were leaving Afghanistan, they launched a drone strike and said they killed a bunch of ISIS-K terrorists. They lied about it. And if the New York Times and other media, for once they did their job, but if they hadn't called out the Pentagon, they hadn't called out the DOD, they hadn't called out the U.S. military for lying, they would have never admitted to it. They never killed any terrorists. They killed an entire family, the Ahmadi family, because they thought that some bottles of water were explosives. You know, it's incredible. They're so high up in the air, they can see that they can see explosives being passed from one, from a pair of hands to the other, but they can't see the civilians standing around when they launch the missile. How convenient. How convenient. And so, of course, no one is punished for that. None of the military personnel involved in a botched drone strike in Kabul that killed 10 civilians will face any kind of punishment, the Pentagon said on Monday. You know, there are people who get fired for a lot less. Some people misplace files, they come to work late, they get fired. But you can kill people in the U.S. military and you won't get fired. Even if it's a mistake, it's botched. You notice the language, how everything is botched? Everything America does, which ends up killing Muslims, is always botched. It's always erroneous. It's always a mistake. America never commits any acts of violence. It's always mistakes. America's pure. America is the best. The West is the best. You know, the U.S., the U.K., Canada, Australia, they never kill Muslims on purpose. It's always botched. It's always a mistake. Oops, sorry. We're not going to do anything about it. And over and over and over again. This is not an isolated incident. Get that clear. Get that clear. This is regular. This is the status quo. This is what the whole war on terror has been. Okay, so they've been killing Muslims. They would kill hundreds of people in Pakistan or Afghanistan with drone strikes just to get one person, for example. Just to get one person. And again, who gave the U.S. the right to go halfway across the world and kill someone? What is that? They think other countries are their backyard, but they would kill hundreds of people. They drone strike funerals. They even killed people at funerals. And then they lie about it, just like they lied here. They claimed, oh, it's ISIS-K terrorists. And back then they would say, oh, it's the Pakistani Taliban. And oh, here's the regular Taliban. Turns out they're just killing civilians, right? 90% of them are civilians, as Daniel Hale revealed. That's how much the U.S. cares so much about Muslims, right? That's how much the U.S., the U.K., Australia, Canada, they love Muslims. And that's why they're taking a firm stance now against China. Can't make this up, really. Unbelievable. So, I want to play you a clip over here, which is, Christ, I don't even know where to begin with this one. So there's a clip about Julian Assange on MSNBC, which Glenn posted. And now, I wanted to do a segment on this. I saw that Glenn already did one, apparently. And he said there were 4 lies in this video. I counted much more. So I was already counting them. I made a whole list. I'm going to play this to you, and I'm going to stop it every time they lie, and I'm going to debunk it. Okay, let's take a look.
The politics of this. As a prosecutor, you're given this case, and you've got a guy who's stolen thousands of documents.
Okay, first lie. 3 seconds in, he's already lying. So, Julian Assange never stole any documents. He was given documents. Okay, he was given documents by Chelsea Manning, and then of course, WikiLeaks has published other things. But what Julian Assange is being tried for, right? He's being tried for possession, publishing, of classified documents. These are standard journalistic practices. He was given the documents. He didn't steal anything. Now, there's one charge, which is conspiracy to commit computer hacking. But again, this is a bogus charge. It hasn't been proven, and he wasn't. The documents that they're talking about here, the Iraq war logs, Afghan war diary, they were given to Assange. They were not stolen. So if 3 seconds in, they're already lying. And keep in mind, this is right after the High Court ruling last week, right? So again, I've been covering the whole Assange thing, and I was there. I already talked about all this, but this is their reaction. They're basically gloating. Take a look at the next lie.
Pages of highly classified national security documents. Okay.
What does that mean, highly classified? The things that Chelsea Manning gave to Julian Assange. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you something over here. The New York Times did an article once about how things are classified, and they said that what Chelsea Manning gave to WikiLeaks was not top secret. It was secret or confidential. Now, secret is the second highest classification, so I don't know if it counts as highly classified. But it's not top secret, and that's something that was pointed out during the trial, the extradition hearing, I should say. Let's keep going.
Release them to the world and in so doing, put the lives of U.S. troops, of people who were working with the United States, allies, collaborators in war zones, in the gravest of danger.
No, he didn't. This is a lie. This is it's a lie. How do I know it's a lie? Because the Pentagon, the Department of Defense, they set up a task force specifically to investigate one thing. Did WikiLeaks publications harm collaborators, U.S. forces, all the people that Joe in his clip just mentioned? And what was the answer? No. So here's an article from The Guardian, published in 2013. They say Bradley Manning leak did not result in deaths by enemy forces, the court hears. Okay? And let me read you the first paragraph. The U.S. counterintelligence official who led the Pentagon's review into the fallout from the WikiLeaks disclosures of state secrets told the Bradley Manning sentencing hearing on Wednesday that no instances were ever found of any individual killed by enemy forces as a result of having been named in the releases. So the Pentagon couldn't find one goddamn person who's harmed by these releases. So I don't know what this guy's lying. Joe is lying. He is flat out lying through his goddamn teeth. He's either extremely ignorant or he's lying. But what he's saying is untrue. It's completely untrue. It's fabricated. And it's not me saying that. It's the Pentagon saying that. Okay? Let's go to the next lies.
Under any scenario, you take politics out of it, and this is an open and shut case. This is not the Pentagon.
How can you take politics out of it? Now again, this is a bit more debatable, but the whole indictment is political. You know, you're charging a journalist with the Espionage Act as a spy. I mean, this is the most classic textbook move. This is fascism 101. You know, this is authoritarianism 101. You go after a journalist who publish things you don't like and call them a spy. That's political by definition. Every human rights organization, every journalist organization, every journalistic organization on the face of the planet has called this indictment political because it is. It is political. Pay attention to the next one. He just can't go 5 seconds without lying. It's absolutely incredible.
Case. This is not the Pentagon Papers. This wasn't Times editors.
Oh my God, this wasn't the Pentagon Papers. Well, you know who released the Pentagon Papers? Daniel Ellsberg. And I'm sorry to tell you, but Daniel Ellsberg agrees that there is no tangible difference between his publications and Assange's. How do I know this? Because he testified. He testified at Assange's extradition hearing. I'm reading you from my coverage. Daniel Ellsberg, who released the Pentagon Papers, Ellsberg says he sees no tangible difference between his publications and Assange's. He views WikiLeaks' work as a public service crucial in combating misinformation and government lies. There is no evidence to suggest that WikiLeaks harmed anyone. So the guy who released the Pentagon Papers, which Joe is talking about here, himself says there is no difference between his work, between the Pentagon Papers, and what WikiLeaks released. So where is he getting this from? Where is he getting this from? Because Daniel Ellsberg says otherwise. And by the way, when I reported that day, because I was doing day-by-day coverage of the Assange thing, Daniel Ellsberg commended my reporting. So I'm not getting anything wrong here. I'm telling you that's what he said. And that's how he said it at the court, at the Old Bailey.
Editors rifling through documents, editors rifling Pentagon Papers. This wasn't Times editors rifling through documents, figuring out what could be released and what couldn't be released. And
Christ, again, every word coming out of his mouth is a lie. He says this wasn't Times editors, meaning New York Times editors rifling through the papers. It literally was. What are you talking about? WikiLeaks literally partnered with the New York Times for the Afghan war diary. Like, dude, he's so bad at, like, everything he says is literally the exact opposite. It's not even close. It's just the complete exact opposite of reality. It was literally Times editors rifling through the pages. The New York Times had about a month to look at the Afghan war diaries, and they were a media partner with WikiLeaks, just like The Guardian, just like Presse, I think Spiegel as well, Le Monde. All these big outlets partnered with WikiLeaks to go through these documents and to redact them. Again, what is he saying?
Explaining it. This was a guy that got stolen documents and gave it to the world.
And now he changes what he was saying at the beginning. He says that he stole the documents, and now he says he got the documents and gave them to the world. Yeah, so he's a publisher. And I mean, that's probably the only right thing he said in the whole video. And by the way, on the point that, this was so callous and careless, and they basically, they looked through the documents without editing anything. They just published, they just dumped it. Complete lie. A complete lie. Here are all the people who testified at the extradition hearing, who worked with WikiLeaks, who are not from WikiLeaks. They're from other publications. They're from other, they're media partners who worked on these things. And they talked about this specific point about redaction, how exhausting it was because they were redacting so much. Okay? So Goetz, this is a journalist who worked at Spiegel, which is a very big German paper. And he said that Assange and WikiLeaks did everything they could to redact and were not responsible for the passwords being leaked. Okay? Now here, this is from Sloboda. Sloboda is from Iraq Body Count, right? So he said that there was a strict redaction system in place in order not to reveal sensitive information. In fact, over-redaction had to be corrected in most cases, a painstaking process, but they did it nonetheless. Assange did not bow to pressure to publish until redaction process was complete. So they were over-redacting. They were being so careful, they had to go back and actually unredact things that were perfectly fine with being published. Here's another one. This is from Hager. He's also testifying here, right? So I believe he was also from from New Zealand, right? So he was also testifying, and he said that just like Goetz and Sloboda, he said that there was an exhaustive redaction process under Assange, and WikiLeaks had a great level of dedication to the work. So again, a complete lie what he's saying here, this Joe, and then it's over to her, right? To Claire.
This is a pretty simple case. It's very straightforward. And the beauty of a trial, Joe, is that you narrow all of the extraneous stuff to the charges that are there against the defendant. And the charges in this case are that he was trying to hack into our military information that protects not just our country, but all.
Again with the lies. She says the charges in this case, plural, the charges in this case are that he was hacking into our military information. No, they're not. There are 18 charges in the indictment against Assange. 17 of them are under the Espionage Act. He's being, accused of being a spy. And there's one charge under the CFAA, the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Although, again, I think they modified it to conspiracy to commit computer intrusion. So, they could assure a conviction. And so that's one charge. And again, it's not even proven. It's a charge, right? So she leaves out the behemoth of the indictment, which is that it's criminalizing journalism. You're trying a publisher as a spy. 17 of the 18 charges are the Espionage Act, and she doesn't say it at all. She says, yeah, he was like hacking into our stuff. God, they're such liars.
All the men and women in uniform around the world. This is really serious stuff. Forget about the politics. The fact that both the right and the left don't like Julian Assange or love Julian Assange, depending on the circumstances that's being talked about, that should tell you all you need to know. This is really a guy who just violated the law.
What do you mean violated the law? He's not in your fucking country. Are you brain dead? He's not in your country. He doesn't come from your country. What does that mean? He violated the law. He's not from the United States. He doesn't live in the United States. He's never worked in the United States. He never published a document in the United States. How did he violate the law? Your law is not the law in the UK. Your law is not the law in our goddamn country, in the UK or in Australia or wherever it is. You can't just extradite people from anywhere on the planet because they broke the law. He didn't even break the law. If you're actually following the law, Julian Assange has a First Amendment right to publish those documents. And you don't have to be a journalist. You could be a pilot or a plumber or a teacher, or you could be working in a restaurant. I don't care it doesn't matter. There's no special clause for journalists. Everyone has a right to free speech, right? So when they say, oh, Julian Assange is not a journalist, it doesn't matter. He could be a plumber. Under the First Amendment, under your law, which you say he broke the law. No, he didn't. He didn't. He has a First Amendment right to publish those documents. And even then, who said that the U.S. law has to apply to him? What is this? But they think other countries are just like, provinces or like counties where they can go and apply U.S. law to them. If she insults Saudi Arabia and Saudi Arabia wants to extradite her to the kingdom of Saudi Arabia, should people just say, well, you broke the law in Saudi Arabia, so what kind of demented logic is this? They're incredible. These people, they're insane.
And I gotta laugh. If their fight against extradition is that they're worried about his safety in prison, they really don't have perspective on this.
No. Assange's argument is not we're worried about his safety in prison. That's one of the arguments, because the ruling in January forced the case to go down this road. The arguments at the extradition hearing, because I was there, are that this criminalizes the press. It criminalizes journalism. You goddamn liar. That's the argument, the main argument. And then there are the health arguments as well, which must be taken into consideration. And look, pay attention to what she says next. It's absolutely incredible.
There are lots and lots of people who go to federal prison who have done really worse things than Julian Assange, and they are protected in prison.
She's like, hey, we have lots of people going to jail in the U.S. We got 2 million people behind bars. Isn't it a great country? Look at how many people go to federal prison. There's nothing wrong with the federal prison system. What a psychotic woman. She thinks it's good? Like, you're proud of that? You have the biggest prison population on earth? You're proud of this shit? That you have 2 million people behind bars, and then you call other countries authoritarian? You're trying to put a journalist in prison, and you're like, yeah, it's not a bad thing. There are tons of people who go to jail. Yeah, maybe fix that. Maybe you shouldn't have tons of people who go to federal prison. Maybe you shouldn't have the biggest prison population on earth. Have you thought about that? Jesus Christ.
I don't think he needs to worry about whether or not he'll be safe in prison. This is really just a smokescreen to try to keep him from ever being accountable for the rule of law. We started talking about Trump being accountable.
Accountable for the rule of law. Again, what is this? Who said, why does U.S. law apply to the UK or Sweden or wherever, Zimbabwe, whatever country you're in where you publish documents? Who said your law applies there? You think the UK is your province or something? What is this? They're accountable to the rule of law. Okay, you want to hold Julian Assange accountable to the rule of law. What about the people in the documents who are killing civilians? I don't see you on MSNBC whining about them being held to account. Where's the Joe segment about holding war criminals to account? I didn't see it. Does anyone have a link? Because I didn't fucking see it. Man, this is incredible. This is absolutely incredible. How can they lie so much in one video? I tried counting the lies and I lost count. I really lost count. I think it was about 8 or 9. Glenn was generous. He focused on the most important ones. But like every single word coming out of their mouth is just an obscenity, an absolute obscenity, just completely incorrigible. These people, completely incorrigible, irredeemable. I mean, the lying about Assange is very, widespread. We know that. But this is really next level. Like, you got to give them props, how they fit so many lies into a 2-minute segment. Wow. Usually the networks focus on 1 or 2 and they just shit out 10. Wow. Christ, they really worked on this one. They made an effort. I'm speechless. I'm speechless. Every single thing they said was the exact opposite of reality. Literally. So, I have to go on Katie's show in a bit, but I wanted to talk about a few more things with you very briefly. So, hold on, let me pull this up. So, last week, Israel bombed Syria again, right? Big surprise. That happens literally every week. And I was reporting about this, and basically they bombed Latakia. Latakia is on the coast of Syria. It's on the Mediterranean, and it's home to Syria's biggest port. And, they basically, you could see the smoke bellowing out of the containers. This is the Latakia port, and you have containers that were on fire. And This was in the middle of the night. Israel, again, they usually strike Damascus, the suburbs of Damascus. They strike Quneitra as well. And this is what happened. Do you know what they struck? Do you know what the Israelis got? Nescafe 3-in-1. So they basically blew up a bunch of food and coffee. And of course, what is the reason that they give? They say, oh, they were striking Iranian targets inside of Syria, right? Like as if that gives them the right to do that in the first place. Like we heard, someone said Iran, quick, go bomb them. That's like if you have someone in your house, which I don't like, so I'm going to come throw a Molotov cocktail at your house because you have a guest that I don't like. This is their logic, right? And how many times have they done this? Here's an article from 2018 from Reuters. And this is just from 2018. They say Israel has struck Iranian targets in Syria 200 times in the last 2 years. So meaning 2016 to 2018, they bombed Syria 200 times. And of course, they don't admit to it, right? Usually, the Israelis don't comment on this. But you're supposed to take their word that there are mean Iranian men standing inside Syria who need to be hit with American-made jets. And so here's an article, for example, from France 24, and they say again, Israel strike targets Iran weapons in Syria port. So basically, they're saying there were Iranian weapons. Well, I don't know about you, man, but Nescafe 3-in-1 does not look much like an Iranian weapon. I'm just saying. Now, of course, you have people who are living in an alternate reality who think that, Israel is some kind of force for good and would never do such a thing. They would never bomb Syrian food. They would never take out infrastructure in Syria. I have news for you. Iran has been sending many ships to Syria in the past months, years with fuel, for example, because Syria is under sanctions. And you have the Americans who are occupying the fields of oil that are in Hasakeh and Dore, so in the northeast and east of Syria. So Syria doesn't have access to its own oil, and it's blocked, from global markets by sanctions. So Iran has been sending fuel, just like Iran's been sending fuel to Venezuela. And Israel's been targeting those ships. It's been specifically sabotaging those ships to make sure Syrians can't get any oil, can't get any fuel, and other supplies, of course, that will help alleviate sanctions. And you can see here, Israel's been occupying the Golan Heights, the Syrian Golan Heights, since 1967. You have the UN over here. And I mean, literally, even the United States agreed that this occupation is illegal, right? I don't even know how many UN resolutions there are, but they use the Golan Heights to mount these attacks, right? So they'll come in from here, they'll violate Lebanese airspace as well, and they'll go to Damascus and bomb Damascus, or up north to Latakia, and so on. And then the usual excuse that they give is they were bombing Iranian targets. Again, always the same thing. Now, they bombed Syria again just a few days ago. So this is yesterday by now. And they say in TRT World, look at the headline. They say Syrian regime soldier killed in Israeli attack. I love the language, right? A regime soldier, like as if before 2011, if you're a corporal in the Syrian army, you're a Syrian soldier. But after 2011, you're a Syrian regime soldier, right? And then they say regime activates air defenses. And then again, killing a regime soldier. I mean, you could just say a Syrian soldier. When you have a U.S. soldier, for example, who's killed in Afghanistan, you don't say a U.S. regime soldier was killed or a Biden regime soldier was killed. You just say U.S. soldier. But of course, they can't say Syrian soldier. They have to go with the whole propaganda, the regime change nonsense. So they have to put that in there, right? And again, they don't care who they kill. Whether it's civilians, whether it's soldiers, whether it's infrastructure that they're knocking out, this might not seem like much to you guys, but food is scarce in Syria. People have nothing, literally nothing, and they're under sanctions. They're 10 years of war, and this is a drop of water compared to the other damages that these countries have done to Syria. But I just want to show you how obscene these arguments are. The press, they just blindly repeat this idea that Israel was bombing Syria. And they're not going to admit to it, but you have to trust us, it was Iranian targets. And they're implying that it's somehow justified because it has Iran in the name. Or Hezbollah is another one, right? Yeah, they're bombing Syria, but look, they were bombing Hezbollah, right? We hate those guys. Iran, we hate them even more. That's good, right? This is their logic. And that's how they condition you to accepting this nonsense. That's an act of war. If someone bombs your country, that's an act of war. And they do this every single week. And that's not all, of course. I want to show you a very quick clip from Al Jazeera. This is Mehdi Hassan interviewing the head of the Israeli intelligence, the Mossad, the former head. And look at what he says here about Israel's involvement in the Syrian war.
Say no preference. There have been reports that Israel has been treating wounded Syrian rebel fighters in its hospitals on the border, including fighters from Nusra Front, which is, of course, the Al-Qaeda proxy in Syria. Do those reports worry you that Israel's helping wounded Al-Qaeda-aligned fighters?
As I said before, in a different context, it's always useful also to deal with your enemies in a humane way. And I think that when you have people who are wounded and you can deal with them in a humane way, the considerations as to whether to take them in are not simply whether it's politically useful or whether it's politically
So it's purely humanitarian, you say? So there's no tactical or political or strategic...
I didn't say there's no tactical. I said the main consideration, the immediate consideration is humane.
But the tactical issues involved, I mean, you know better than me the phrase blowback. You don't think there's going to be blowback against Israel if you get into bed with a group like Nusra Front?
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's going to be blowback.
Why?
Because I think that, unfortunately, the rules of the game in Syria are such that you can do anything that is not possible to be done anywhere else.
Yeah, I think people said that in Afghanistan too. Would you also treat Hezbollah fighters?
No. I would not treat...
Have you not just contradicted what you told me 60 seconds ago about humanely treating your enemies?
No. I think as far as Hezbollah...
That's amazing, right? So Israel will give medical assistance. It's not hypothetical. They've done this, right? It's real. They will give medical assistance, and that's, of course, just scratching the surface. There are other forms of assistance, like acting as an air force, to Al-Qaeda, right? It goes under different names in Syria, Al-Nusra Front, and then you have Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS. So Israel will help them, but Hezbollah is worse, right? So you know, Al-Qaeda that has attacked the U.S. in Africa, right? Blown up embassies in Africa. They've hit the World Trade Center. All of these things. Yeah, Israel will help them, no problem, because it serves their agenda of regime change inside Syria. And that's just, again, this is just one facet of the war on Syria. But do you see what Israel's doing there? The guy's just like openly saying, like, yeah, we've done it. So what? Of course we treat Al-Qaeda in a humane way. Like, yeah, it's incredible, right? So they bomb Syria. They're helping Al-Qaeda in Syria. And then, you know, they want to come along and say, oh, no, it's Iranian targets. No. This is much deeper than that. It shows you their hypocrisy and who the real terrorists are. They're literally in bed with Al-Qaeda. They're helping Al-Qaeda. They're nursing these Al-Qaeda fighters, you know, putting them in hospital beds, giving them food, giving them shelter, you know, nursing them back to health so they can go and kill Syrians. I mean, just completely shameless, you know? And that's what they've been doing. They've been taking advantage of the fact that Syria is at war on multiple fronts. You got the Israelis occupying the Golan Heights to the south, Turkey and you know, the rebels that it's backing are occupying Idlib to the north, and then the east and northeast are occupied by the U.S. and the SDF that they've allied themselves with. You know, they've torn Syria into like 3-4 different parts, and they love it. And Israel just adds to that, you know, keep Syria in chaos, keep it in turmoil, make sure that the infrastructure is blown to bits, make sure there's no fuel coming in, make sure the sanctions are really working, make sure that, you know, there's no proper counterterrorism there. Russia, Iran, Hezbollah, make sure that they and the Syrian army can't actually fight Al-Qaeda. Let's go help Al-Qaeda. Unbelievable. All right, guys. I've got to go on Katie's show. It's Katie Halper's show. I'll be on with Kevin Gostola in about 5 minutes to talk about Assange. We have a donation here from Black in the Empire. It says, wish I could send more. Love your work. Again, you guys humble me with these comments. I'm appreciative of anything. So thank you so much, Black in the Empire. And I'm very happy to hear that. So I'm just checking if there's been anything else. If I did miss them, I'll read them next time. But you guys should go check me out now on Katie's show, and I will see you there in a few minutes. Marissa says, thank you for covering this topic. It's rough out here. No worries, and it's good to hear from you. All right, guys, I'll see you in a few minutes. Take care, and thanks for supporting independent media. Thanks for supporting the show. Bye-bye.